Hi, Ray here, and over the next few minutes I'm going to have a look at how artificial intelligence might impact the world of research and insights. So let's start first with the big picture. There are going to be really big changes over the next couple of years. However, even really big changes don't impact everybody. So I think maybe 10% of the projects, the companies and the people working in the insights will have some degree of impact over the next couple of years. Maybe it will disrupt about 1% of the ecosystem, but globally that's about $1 billion worth of business is going to be changed over the next couple of years because of artificial intelligence. Over the next 10 years, I think perhaps 50% of the global ecosystem is going to change to a greater or lesser extent because of artificial intelligence. It's going to be as big as the impact of the internet. So here's my agenda. I'm going to start off with looking at where AI is already in use, and I'm going to finish with how do we know it works. So the sorts of places where AI is already in use. We use it for translation, for transcription. So every time you use Google Translate, every time you use one of these wonderful tools that will take a video or an audio recording, gives you a transcript, you're using AI. Every time Grammarly helps you improve your writing, you're using Grammarly. When you use SatNav to get to a focus group or a depth interview, you're using AI. It is all around us. It's already quite an integrated part of what we do. Adaptive surveys are probably at least 40 years old. An adaptive survey is one which changes which questions to ask based on your earlier answers. Fraud detection and routing is a major part of what the panel companies are doing to improve the service to you, to try to protect you against some of the dodgy things that are going on with people trying to hack into surveys. Algorithmic approaches from A/B testing through to algorithmic advertising and all sorts of things going on there all use artificial intelligence. And of course things like sentiment analysis when we do social media research uses artificial intelligence. So it is already heavily in use all around us. There is a tendency to describe things that work as not being AI. They'll go, oh, that's just translation, that's just transcription. No, it's all AI. One of the big pressures is the quality of data, and there is this fantastic initiative going on, the Global Data Quality Initiative with SMR, the MRS, the Insights Association, the Australian Research Society, the Austrian Research Society, SampleCon, lots of other people coming in, Crick from Canada, trying to fix the problems, particularly with panel data, because of people trying to create fraud, people trying to hack into the surveys. So we might see two things. First of all, let's think about the short term. We are going to see some small improvements in fraud protection, quality checks, questionnaire checking. We're going to see a bit more engagement. I don't expect to see any drop in the use of panels this year or next year. So no apparent change to the ecosystem. In the longer term, if AI can't deal with these quality issues, then we're going to see a large drop in the use of panels. So there is an underlying problem. Lots and lots of different remedies are being tried, but frankly, if AI can't fix the problem, then I think all the other remedies will fail too. If AI can deal with the quality issues, then I think panels will be relatively stable in absolute terms, but they're going to decline as a share of all research. One, there's a limit to the number of people who will join panels and a limit to how many surveys those people on the panels will do. So there is a limit that way round, but we're also going to see synthetic data taking a larger and larger share of the new data collection. So synthetic data. Again, it has been around for a long time. Every time somebody does a conjoint model and they're using hierarchical Bayes, they've got sparse data, and it's effectively using a form of synthetic data to create new participants, new data, virtual data to allow modelling to take place. Predictive eye tracking means that instead of showing your magazine cover or your new carton, your new box to real people and tracking their eyes, people are showing it to AI trained devices, and it's using virtual respondents to say where the eyes would have gone. So all of that is happening, and it's going to happen more and more and more. We'll see more missing data dealt with by AI. We'll see more predictive techniques. But we're also going to see personas, and we're starting to see these at the moment. So in a qualitative persona, you might train the system to say, I want you to pretend that you are a teenager who is into sport, you live in the northeast of the country. How might you answer these questions? How would you respond to this new product concept? Quant is very much the same, but at a much larger scale, where you would create thousands of virtual people based perhaps on lots and lots of data you've collected in the past, and those are going to be used to conduct future surveys. We're also going to see direct modelling, where you simply measure these impacts, create these outputs, and you don't have to create virtual people in order to do that. You simply model, if we change price, this will happen. So this is very much more like econometric modelling. What do we think is going to happen in the short term and the long term? So in the short term, we're going to see the early adopters not waiting for validation. They're going to be persuaded. They are by nature early adopters. They try things. We are going to see lots and lots of conference papers. We're going to see lots of articles, lots of examples of people adopting synthetic data. But it's going to be a tiny percentage of the industry. Perhaps 1% of all client companies are going to be heavily into synthetic data over the next couple of years. Now, that's a lot of work, but it's a small percentage. In the longer term, it will be faster and cheaper to use synthetic data. If people think it's good enough, it will be massive. It took the internet over 10 years to become the dominant method of data collection in the developed markets. This could be true for synthetic data. We could see in Western Europe, North America, Australia, some other markets, synthetic data being the largest single method of collecting information within 10 years. Analytics. So we can break this into qualitative analysis, and that tends to mean we're using the same data, but we're doing it faster. Or it means we're going to use more data, and people start talking about qual at scale. I'm going to come back to qual at scale a bit more as well. In quantitative analysis, we see that the use of AI is actually developing slower than the use of AI in qualitative analysis. I think that is because quite often in quant, people are fixated on the explicability and the repeatability of the techniques. And qual tends to be a little bit more focused on the usefulness of the output. So I think that is perhaps one of the differences. In the short term, again, it's going to be the early adopter clients. So 1% of the clients are going to start using this a lot more. Some of the agencies, 1% of agencies are going to start using it a lot more. And agencies are going to use it to speed up or to deepen their qual analysis. It's not going to generate a lot of visible disruption. In the longer term, I expect to see a lot more open-ended questions asked. We've tended to shy away from them because they've been hard to analyse. AI makes it much more easy, much easier, much more direct to do that. I think we're going to see in qual data more formal analysis approaches, more grounded theory, more narrative analysis, more discourse analysis, because you can ask the machine to help you and get a much faster throughput. I think we're going to see lots of human AI tool combinations analysing quant and qual information. And I don't think any of this is going to lead to big disruptions. Generally, I think it's going to lead to an improving quality, an improving speed, and a fall in prices, because humans and machines can work together to do a better job producing things faster. What about qual at scale? I said I'd come back to it. It's a special case of analytics. It includes analysis of social media, it includes chatbots collecting the information, it includes quantitative semiotics, quantitative ethnography, quantitative cultural analysis. We've got a split epistemological position here. There are two separate things going on when we talk about qual at scale. One is where we operationalize qual into quant. So let's say you've got some open-ended questions in your survey and you use AI to code all that information. Coding information from qual to quant isn't qualitative analysis. It is quantitative analysis via operationalizing. So what we do is we take all of those open-ended comments, we code them, and we now have quant data, and we typically use it just like quant data. We count it, we cross-tab it, and so on. But the alternative use is large qual. If people believe that machines can look at the information, look at, say, an hour of an interview, and use narrative analysis to come up with some outputs and recommendations, well, then a machine could look at 1 million hours of interviews and use narrative analysis and come up with some outputs. That would be large qual. That would be qual at scale. That would not be quantified qual. That would be quite different. So in the short term, I think we might see projects moving from one supplier to another, but this change, again, it's early adopter driven. No net change to the amount of qual going on in the industry, just some changes in who is doing it. In the longer term, I think we're going to see a shift from traditional quant techniques to much more non-numeric inputs, more use of video, more use of image, more use of discursive text. Smart DIY. I think this is probably one of the most visible things that's going to happen. It's going to have a really big impact. All aspects of DIY research are going to have AI embedded in them. So AI is going to help with the design of the project, the collection of the data, the analysis of the data, and the summarizing of the data. This is what we've talked about as the democratization of research. We're going to see more people conducting research. It's going to be safer. It's far better that they use smart DIY than some of the traditional DIY techniques which have required non-researchers to write a survey and for non-researchers to do the analysis. Here, the non-researcher will have a discussion with the AI about what they want to achieve. The AI will select a tool, the AI will run the analysis, and the AI will explain the outputs. This is going to lead to more research being conducted. Over the last 10 years, we've seen a really big increase in the amount of evidence-based decision-making, and smart DIY is going to promote that. In the short term, we're going to see an explosion of tweaks to existing products. Anybody who's got a DIY tool is going to have to add some AI to it. Most new products, of course, are going to struggle to break through. There are too many new products. It's hard to get awareness and usage. In the long term, nearly all DIY self-serve is going to be AI aided, and it's going to grow and grow. It's going to be a much bigger proportion of all research. Smart data collection. This is already happening. We're seeing some of the chatbots getting quite clever. We're going to see adaptive scripting, probably a bit more gamification, all coming into play. There won't be 1 year where it is massively different from another year. It's going to be a gradual process of more and more data collection being smart data collection. This is the question I posed right at the beginning. How will we know if synthetic data works? How will we know if a large piece of qualitative analysis run through a large language model is valid? How will we know that the missing data algorithms being used by AI are putting the right data into there? Frankly, it's going to be hard to know if it works. One of the challenges, for example, is that the large language models produce results that are very plausible. So if it's plausible, how do we know whether it's right or wrong? In essence, we have to establish counterfactuals. One such counterfactual is test and control. We need to use alternative techniques to say, is it going to be right? Obviously, you can do some work with prediction as well. That will be another method. But I think many people won't worry too much about if it works. If it's plausible, I suspect they will just do it. So 3 thoughts about the way things are going. Even fast changes take time. Perhaps 10% disruption in 2 years. So 10% of the industry doing something. But I think 50% disruption in 10 years is very realistic. AI is mostly going to be about faster and cheaper. Only occasionally will AI make things better. It will often make them worse. This is like the internet. Online surveys were not as good as most face-to-face surveys, but they were much faster and they were much cheaper and they became the dominant technique. We do need to consider ethics. I suspect we're going to have some disasters over the next few years in terms of AI and ethics. Remembering that not everything that is possible is legal, and not everything that is legal is ethical. And we want to do that which is ethical. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to questions.